It's Friday, August 4th, 2023, and this is the Washington Times front page. Thanks for joining us. I'm George Gerbo. Former President Trump pleaded not guilty to federal charges of attempting to subvert the will of voters and remain in power after his 2020 election loss. Appearing in a federal courthouse just blocks from the Capitol, Jeff Mordock reports Trump sat in the courtroom flanked by his two attorneys. He listened intently and looked directly at the judge as she spoke with him. He had a serious look on his face at the defendant's table and periodically clasped his hands. When the judge asked him questions such as his name and age, Trump answered in a serious and low-pitched tone. The next hearing in the case is set for August 28th. The parties agreed that as a condition of his release, Trump must not violate state or federal laws, must steer clear of communicating with witnesses, and must appear in court as directed. A Florida woman who has made a career bringing lawsuits related to the Americans with Disabilities Act is asking the Supreme Court not to hear her latest case. Alex Sawyer reports Deborah Laufer searches to find hotels she says don't meet the ADA standards for online information about accommodations for Americans with disabilities. Then she, as someone with a disability, files lawsuits against the hotels. She's filed more than 600 complaints, reached settlements, and then collected costs and attorney's fees. But she's now asking the Supreme Court to drop her challenge to a chain of hotels in Maine that refused to settle. Juliana Atchison, owner of Atchison Hotels, said Laufer fears the court will end her money-making operation. Saudi Arabia is hosting an unusual gathering of top security officials from 30 nations, led by Ukraine, to discuss potential paths toward ending Russia's occupation of Ukrainian territory. Guy Taylor reports the catch is Russia isn't invited to the gathering. Analysts say talks are likely to anchor around Ukrainian and U.S. efforts to persuade key non-aligned countries to publicly back Ukraine's position on peace talks. Regional experts say Saudi Arabia is using the meeting to underscore its rising status as a global diplomatic broker. The gathering will mark the second time in as many months that various nations have discussed a 10-point peace plan that Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky put forward late last year. Guy also talked with former U.S. intelligence officer David Sauer to discuss tensions between China and Taiwan. Sauer believes China's ruling Communist Party is preparing for war with Taiwan, but President Xi Jinping would much rather take control of the U.S.-backed island democracy without a military clash. And finally, Susan Ferricchio reviews some of the key moments from former Biden family business associate Devon Archer's testimony this week to House investigators. In the 4-hour deposition, Archer told lawmakers that executives at the Ukrainian energy firm Burisma were desperate for President Biden's help in tamping down a state-run corruption probe into their company, and asked his son Hunter to call his father, then the vice president. Find all of today's front page stories at WashingtonTimes.com/front page or on the Washington Times app, and find us wherever you get your podcasts. Just search Washington Times in any major podcast app. You can also find us on social media at Wash Times for breaking news, sports, commentary, and more. For the Washington Times, I'm George Gerbo.